first responders, I'm also talking about those people, excuse me, that are out there on the scene actively, looking for whatever it is that they're supposed to be looking for. And they're more than likely to be the first people to see what's going on, and to see, you know, um, someone that's murdered there on the ground, um, to see some type of tragic event. Um, if you're a first responder and you see this, and you see this again, and you see this again, and it's just repetitive and it becomes redundant. First of all, if you see it the first time and you go home to your family, that's not something that can easily be just shaken out of your mind. Let's say you're a police officer, and you just saw someone. You had to go and cover up the body of a person that's laying on the street with their brains or guts out. I mean, I'm making it graphic because this is literally what a lot of first responders see. They see something that's really gruesome and that none of us would want to see. And so with those first responders, they have to go home at the end of the day. At some point, they have to go home. And when they go home, they're seeing all of this that they just saw, and it's in their mind. This man, let's say he goes and he kisses his wife. And when he leans over, all he sees is that body that's there on the floor. Or the wife begins to notice that the husband is sleepless, restless, and is having nightmares. And as a person that loves someone, you go and you say, hey, let me call a supervisor and tell them. But as soon as that supervisor knows, that's your employer. You are the employee. If they find out that there's some type of mental health thing going on, I mean, even if you had like some type of physical thing, but that's, hey, for some people, depending on what their job is, they may still be able to do it. If you're sitting at a desk, you sit at the desk and do it. But if you're that person that's taking that phone call, the operator taking that phone call, and you're just in a high state of anxiety and you can't focus and you can't concentrate, you cannot do your job. And that's just the reality of it. And that's what really shook me up so much, because I was more like, wow, why are they making me get out? But in reality, I was a hospital corpsman. I was basically a nurse. And because of the things that had happened to me, and in the way that they did happen to me, I was not able to do the job that I signed up to do. So regardless of what my goals were, so yeah, as first responders, you could really go through a lot, and your employer is obligated to have you to step down and do a job that, may not be, have as much stress going on. So those first responders, a lot of people don't go into being a police officer or a firefighter, or in the military for that matter, and decide, oh, well, I'm just going to do this for a little bit. Majority of the people like myself that go, we're career minded. We're not doing all of this training and just to say, oh, well, as soon as something happens, then I'm going to have to get out. So that's the last thing that is really on our minds when we're thinking about this being our career. So like I said, the topic is PTSD and first responders, PTSD and employment. When you are employed, and the first sign of any type of mental health issue, PTSD, especially for first responders that have been through some really, horrific, have to see some really horrific things. Someone goes and they decide to commit suicide. The first people there are the first responders that need to cover up his body so that bypassers aren't, they cover up the body, I think, to protect the body as evidence, to make sure there's nothing else going on. But I also think that it's to protect those of us that are passing by. I passed by in a car once. It was before the police got there. A guy was on a motorcycle, had I don't know what he did. By the time I got there, I saw the motorcycle go up and come down, and when we got through the light and passed it up, he was dead. He was there on the ground. There were people around, standing around, but from my viewpoint, I could see it. And my daughter was like, "What's the commotion?" And I did my best to try to hurry up and get up out of there, because it's not something that I wanted to see. Um, so imagine what the first responders see on a regular basis. So having PTSD is not just something that is a easy fix. You just, this is what's going on, and we're just going to get over it. And it's not that simple. And that's why it's a mental health issue. It's an anxiety issue. There is something going on in your brain that affects your emotional state. And if your emotional state of being is being affected, then if your emotional state of being is being affected, then it's a high probability or a high chance that there's something that your work can be affected also. Um, so yeah, that's some of the things that we deal with when you are employed and you're diagnosed with PTSD. For first responders, for the most part, they normally have, especially if something horrific happens and they have to witness something, they're not just like, go home, come back to work and do the same thing. And a lot of times they do their best to have counselors on the scene. They have first responders have phone numbers that they can call to just get some type of counseling help. So it does make a really big difference.